Hello and welcome to the Hockey Edmonton show. This is now episode 10 of the show. I'm Zachary Kubusch here, filling in for YouTube Trev, who's usually in this position. And of course, we have Jeremy Haluschak, the co-host of the show. And we're pleased to be joined by Hockey Alberta manager of officiating in studio, of course, Liam MacIssac. So for this episode, it's surrounded by the discussion of officiating. And of course, officiating is very, very important to the game. It's one of the four pillars of the participants' experience in hockey, of course. Jeremy, can you tell us more about that?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. That's you really nailed it on the head. When we talk about our participants' experience, and we've talked about our pillars, we've talked about our coaching. You've heard me speak about that. You know, we've talked about our parents and how to be a supportive parent, and as well as our members. And we talk about how we were working with our members to make them stronger as organizations. But the final pillar is that officials' their experience with officiating in the game and how officials manage that game. So again, it's a significant part of the game, obviously, and yeah, it's just exciting to have Liam here to talk a little bit about it, and yeah, just overall about the officiating program and even how we can support our officials, because again, without the officials, the game can't happen at the end of the day. And you know, sadly, we know the stories, we see those too often, you know, at the professional level, but unfortunately that drags down to the amateur level, into the game of kids, and them being a lightning rod of criticism. And again, that's what we're trying to hope for today in our episode, is some key takeaways on, like I said, how do we make those officials who sometimes are just learning the game, those that are just giving back to the game that they love, how do we make sure their experience is also positive? Because again, their experience is positive, that means our kids' experience is positive.
Well, there's also, it's a lot of, you have to practice as a player and being involved in it as well. And like being an official, you can't really hop into it. You need that training. You need that guidance to become a valid official and call the game correctly, which is hard enough. It's just practice, like if you're suiting up for the game, right? So I'm happy that you're here with us today, Liam, and there is a lot of things to talk about surrounding this. Where shall we begin?
Yeah, for sure. No, let's just start again with the overall program itself. So, you know, can you just provide us a brief overview of, you know, the Hockey Alberta / Hockey Canada program, officiating program, and kind of just give us a general background of that?
Yeah, for sure. So you started officiating Hockey Canada, Hockey Alberta program. You started officiating at 12 years old. We keep it kind of 13 in the greater Calgary and Edmonton areas. It's like the first part-time job a lot of kids can get. You start there. They call it 5 levels in the program now. And you progress through, like, kind of 12 to 15-year-olds. We call you a level 1 official. That's like really your bare bones activities, your bare bones first introduction to refereeing, right? You're doing your U9, your U11 hockey. And then you turn 16, we automatically grant you your level 2. And then from there on, it's kind of aptitude based. As you excel through the program, you can move up to some of our high performance stuff and work through the Hockey Alberta program, and then ultimately through some Hockey Canada high performance stuff.
Perfect. So, you know, how do you start with it? You know, I know you go through the clinic program, and now does every year do officials go through that clinic program?
Yep, for sure. So every fall, every official registered in Canada has to take a clinic. They're offered in a bunch of different formats across the country. Right now, we have a mix of in-person and virtual clinics. So between the end of August and the middle of December, every one of our 5,800 registered officials is going to take a clinic. Our level 1s and 2s, it's 8 hours of in class. So on a Saturday morning in Edmonton, you're going to sit in a classroom and have some experienced officials instructors in front of you, giving you some rules knowledge. For the level 1s, it'll be some very basic positioning, some very basic rule knowledge. And then the level 2s, it's a little more advanced stuff because those are your experienced officials. They've been around for a while, so we'll do a little more advanced rule knowledge, maybe some conflict resolution. And then the biggest part of the clinics for the level 1s is getting out on the ice. Every single one of those clinics comes with an ice time, so they get to go out and practice those skills to provide a little muscle memory to what they've learned in the classroom.
So within like that 8-hour day you spend the Saturday or whatever, one of those hours are spent out there on the ice?
Yep, absolutely. So we have an on-ice lesson plan that Hockey Canada provides. So it's generally early afternoon after we've given you a little bit of theory. We send you for lunch, get a little bit of food in you, get the energy back up, and then run you on the ice. And we usually have 2 or 3 instructors or some volunteers maybe from the level 2 classes that are more experienced officials that'll come out and be players for us, so that we can practice calling offsides, calling icings, making simple penalty calls, dropping the puck, just trying to get our brand new officials the fundamentals they need to go and start their officiating journey.
And when these officials like head out to the Hockey Alberta Officials Clinic, how many people are usually there like each year for say once a week on the Saturday? Is it like a dozen people, or how big is the group that heads out there?
So depends on the center, obviously. The larger centers, Calgary, Edmonton, Red Deer, we try to keep the classes capped about 30. Keeps a nice kind of instructor-student ratio, and any larger than that, it can get a little unruly. But out in the broader areas, you can often have clinics of just 5 or 10 people out in wherever, right? Like White Court or Lloydminster, where maybe the numbers are a little bit smaller. And it's a little more personal, but it's a wide range just depending on population size in the province, obviously.
So now when they do hit the ice and they do practice, it's mainly the positioning or where they're supposed to stand and things like that, or do they go through certain, I guess, formulated plays to try and see and call it in that sense?
Yeah. It's not so much formulated plays. Again, like we try to keep it really, really basic because we're dealing with 12 to 15-year-olds, right? 0 to 3 years of experience of officiating. So it's 2 instructors kind of acting out plays at the blue line, maybe at 40% speed, just going very slow and methodical through the steps so that our officials can have a look at the play and make a decision and develop a little bit of confidence in making a choice. The same thing with the icings, just some very slow shots, some very simple stuff. There is a little bit of fun at the end. We'll generally have our instructors kind of mess around maybe in an end zone or at center with a puck and take some penalties on each other, and we'll have our officials watch and go through their proper penalty procedure to call some penalties. But it's kept very simple. It's the crawl walk run mentality, right? We've got to give them a few things to start with, and because the clinic is only 8 hours, and then we send them out into the world to be officials, we try to keep it very basic to give them some skills, because most of their development is going to come from actually seeing games.
No, yeah, that's 100%. It's when you could get the theory, and then you just have to go and practice that for sure. Those 8-hour courses, sometimes I'm glad that you guys supply the lunches, right? You know, you always want to go out there and, of course, bringing that energy back to when you hit the ice. It sounds like a really good day and a good progression, kind of not too much. Of course, not overwhelming is a big thing, especially with these kids. You know, I always wanted to be a ref when I was growing up. I didn't ever go into a clinic program or anything like that. My brother, I think at one time, was actually a referee when he was in his younger days, I guess you could say, when he was a teenager as well. But yeah, like how easy is it to try and access these programs for people who are aspiring to become refs?
Yeah, we try and keep the barriers to entry as low as we can. It's as simple as just registering to come out. We have a ton of information on our website every fall. I know as we sit here today, we're kind of in the middle of November, so we probably have another month of clinic season left. But there's tons of tons of information on the Hockey Alberta officials website on getting started and what's left in the province. And it is just as simple as picking a date that works for you in the calendar and registering and going.
Lovely.
Perfect. So, we talked about the intro program, but what else goes in through the development of officials here in Alberta as a whole? Like I said, you talked about the level 1, level 2 officiating, but how does that go? As well as what other opportunities are there beyond the clinic for development?
Yeah. So during the season, a lot of your development is going to come from your local center. Some senior officials in your area. We do a good amount of work with what we call like grassroots mentorship and supervisions. So what that looks like is getting an experienced official out with you. Maybe if you're a little bit younger, maybe you're 15, we get an experienced official out with you on the ice to watch you work and provide you some feedback that way. And then as we progress older through our level 2s and our now experienced level 3s, it's more of a supervision, or what we're starting to refer to as a coaching mechanic. Where we have a more senior official just sitting in the stands and providing some feedback and helping you develop that way. And then as you progress through the season, now with the proliferation of showcases at every level of hockey, there's a lot of opportunity for officials that way to work some of those showcase tournaments. And then, of course, at the end of the year through the Hockey Alberta provincial championships, the way those are very, very well spread out through the province, those are some great opportunities for an end of season carrot for officials that have done really, really well. And then kind of at our higher levels, there's always opportunity for some Hockey Canada assignments. As far as like, I know we have U17s going on right now in Sarnia. We have an official there, and some other championships. We have like the SO Cup coming up in Lloydminster. We'll be looking to nominate officials for that. The Centennial Cup in Calgary, that kind of thing at the very highest level. That's the end of season carrot for those guys.
And on top of that, you do some work with the Hockey Alberta spring showcase programs and summer programs as well. Can you dive a little bit into the what we would look at as potentially an off season, but again, with our higher performing players, coaches, officials, there is some extended training and development there as well.
Yeah, for sure. So as you develop and start to progress through what I guess I would call maybe an intermediate skill level, the U15, U18, AAA levels. We have every spring we have the spring showcase, as you said, the Alberta Cup, Alberta Challenge, and Prospects Cup. So we bring in 16 officials from across Alberta for the Alberta Cup tournament. They compete through that week just like the teams do. It's their goal at the end to work the final on Sunday, just like the teams are trying to win that gold medal. And then the same thing for Challenge. That's a female tournament. I'm proud to say our volunteers did a great job last year of bringing in an all-female officiating staff for that tournament. And then the Prospects Cup, which is your best U13 players in the province, and we used that as a U15 development opportunity as well, kind of in the central Alberta area.
Perfect. So definitely a lot of officiating opportunities there and development opportunities, which again, we talk about that progression and just continuing to, while these are still aspirations for those who want to be at the very top of the level. I mean, it's, what they take away from those comes back down to the community programs, to our club system here in Edmonton and such, and the Alberta Elite Hockey League, Alberta Female Hockey League and such. But again, having that come down, and a lot of times we see it where, those people act as mentors as they go through the program. I think that's one of the things that has kind of been instilled there with that pride of officiating. There's that mentorship side too. So
no, absolutely. It's we're very reliant on our officials giving back. Everyone in our program, myself included, got to where they were because somebody above them spent some time on them. So it's really great to see, and it's honestly part of why we select a few of our officials is we're not often looking for good officials. We're also looking for good people. So to send those people back into the community and to give back to their local centers is a huge part of the process.
And it's great to give back. And of course, if you're able to teach somebody what you know, you become better at it yourself. So you're not only helping other people, but you're helping yourself along with that. And you're talking about good people being a part of this. And of course, there probably are a lot of great people who are officials who give their time back, volunteers and such, all throughout Hockey Edmonton and elsewhere. But what are some of the characteristics that make a good official?
I would say a good person, but I just did. So confidence, obviously. It's not an easy job. Like let's get that straight. I'm not going to lie to anybody about that. It can be difficult out there. Confidence is huge. Just and a little bit of humility. That seems to be a really good mix, is someone who's confident but not cocky out there, right? Somebody who knows what they're doing and has the confidence to make a call in a big moment, but can still bring themselves down to a level where you can have a conversation with the coach in a way that's not confrontational, right? So, and which I guess would bring me to the next point, would be a very good communicator, somebody who has the ability to articulate to a coach, well, why did you call this penalty? Why did you not call this penalty? All skills that come with time. Some people are born with it. Some people have to learn it. But some very important things for officials at every level.
Right. Yeah. And you talk about, like, you do need that confidence. I could almost just see that, because eyes are on the players, but it's a big thing being an official. It is a big title to hold, that you are in control of the game. And of course, the communication, there is a lot of it between coaches. Why did you make that call, as you just said? And I would like to move on to how, for those who are in those positions and might find it overwhelming, having to communicate and sort of in the spotlight in a sense, what would you recommend to somebody who is feeling overwhelmed in officiating?
A couple of things, I guess. I would say, depending on where you're at, just take it a game at a time. Understand that none of us are perfect officials. No one's ever had a perfect game. You're going to make mistakes, just like we make mistakes in life. Accept them and learn from them. And if it's very challenging, or you're having a hard time with a particular coach or a particular situation, reach out. There's somebody, I'm sure, in your association that you work with, whether it be a mentor or a senior official, that you can reach out to, that has been in your position. Somebody that maybe has spent some time with you or you've worked with over the years. Give them a call. Just talk to them. It's a great community. We're of officials that are there for each other, and we all understand, because we've all been there in that position. So we don't want you to suffer in silence and go away. Make that phone call, reach out to somebody, and talk, 'cause you're not the only one.
And that sounds like it could be a memento almost for a bigger picture in a sense, and that's just in life as well. Reach out whenever help is needed, and for officials to kind of have like those mentors, or anybody in a sense, just day-to-day life, having people that they could speak to is a very beautiful thing and very helpful in a sense, because it's hard sometimes. Like, I was thinking about this on the way here. You said that refs or officials aren't perfect. Nobody is really perfect. And even in a game, if you're the best player on the ice or you're a coach, you might make the missed call. You might drop the wrong play or anything. Officials are humans. Everybody on the ice is a person. And sometimes being in that position, if you're on the ice and there's an offside called or an offside missed, and it might weigh the game, you got to realize that you can't make 100% of those calls all the time, even though each official strives for that success, right?
Yeah, it happens, and we strive to be the best we can. I like the joke often goes around. It's the only job in the world where you're expected to be perfect on day one and get better from there.
Fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah.
But yeah, just try to learn from it, and try not to let it affect you. Understand it will happen, but if you can learn from it and not do it again or get better from it, that's the ultimate goal.
Every day is a new day, right?
Correct.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think, this Zach led us into where we want to go here with the next part of the questioning, and just giving those tips for those officials that might be watching. And again, because again, what we want to highlight in these programs are some of those key takeaway things. So, like you said, we asked a little bit about the overwhelming side of it, but what advice do you have for our officials when you have to deal with that unruly coach that might be mad because of a call, or the game is just not going that person's way? What tips of advice would you give to a budding official there that might be dealing with that for the first time, or the second time, or however many times?
So if you're gonna go, obviously, if you're gonna go talk to a coach, do everything in teams. We're a team on the ice. It's a team environment. If you're the referee, take it. It could be as simple as taking one of your lines people with you, right? Just because going over there by yourself can be intimidating. Go with somebody else. And it's what I tell officials. Hockey's an emotional sport. Coaches can become emotional. Sometimes they just want to be heard. And if they have questions, this is what we teach in the clinic. This is what we teach our guys is if coaches have questions, hear the question, answer it, and be done. I don't want to subject you to being berated by a coach, right? If they're simply there to yell and scream, remove yourself from the situation. And if it's above and beyond, use the rule book, right? We have unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. We have game misconduct penalties. Nothing says the coach has to stay in the game and be belligerent. That's something we're trying to get out of the game, and use the rule book to your advantage if you have to.
No, it's definitely one of those things. Sometimes I know in my coaching experience, I'll use one of the examples. We had a young referee. So this was when I was coaching, now U13. Tier 1, AA, whatever you want to call it. So very, unfortunately, when you get to those high levels, the pressure around the entire arena can, raise, the parents, the coaches, all of that thing. And I remember we had a player that, legitimately, probably the easiest call you could make was tripped on a breakaway. And of course, the parents are upset. I'm asking what's going on there. And this kid, like I said, he, props to him. I don't remember the name or anything, but props to him. Like I said, 13 years old. He came by, and he's at the next whistle. He said, "I did not see it. Your number 4 crossed my line of sight, and I didn't see the trip at that point." And because I was watching the entire play, I'm like, "Yeah, he didn't BS me. Absolutely, my defenseman was coming to the bench at that time, and yeah." Absolutely. Saw his point of view. I mean, I respect that, right? And again, something that that again, a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, whatever that, like I said, he was a young kid.
Yep.
This was a preseason game. So again, they're probably trying to, okay, we've got some preseason games. We just might have had a coaching clinic. We got him on the ice type of thing. And yeah, handled it just amazingly about that. And it's like, what can you say? It's straightforward to the point, like you said, in, out, and the game goes on. And I think one of the things that, even as I just sat there and listened to you, just dawned on me, because again, my role now is at that high level and trying to oversee the game itself and taking my perspective from a coach or a player out of it. You sit there and sometimes you see those arguments that go on for a long time, and it's like, well, you're wasting your ice time as a whole. Like, as I sit back now, and maybe I'm getting more low key as the age goes on, as most of us do. Like you're just wasting the time. When you try to drag that out as a whole, right? So again, that's a good perspective there in terms of hearing the person out, because sometimes there might be a valid point. sometimes a simple answer of, yeah, I missed it, or here's why, it wasn't called. And then, yeah, if you continue to push the button, there are those repercussions. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to learn those repercussions. So, and just moving on, I think that when we talk about, obviously dealing with the coaches, and this one a little bit different because, sometimes a little bit challenging just in the dynamics of the arena. But, how do you deal with those parents that are yelling and screaming and such? What advice would you give to a referee when that temperature is really getting up there, and, you get the parents that are becoming unruly and such as a whole, and just how to manage that situation?
Yeah, that's tough. There aren't as many ways to deal with parents, obviously. And like, I've been there. I remember dealing with parents when I was young and coming up. I think retrospectively, kind of just looking at it, looking at those situations again, and it's easier for me to say now to officials, but honestly, your best strategy is to try and ignore it as best you can. Sometimes it's easier to let them sink back into whatever, the crowd of 50 or the crowd of 100 or whoever's watching there. If it's all one voice, it seems easier to manage as just noise. But again, if they go above and beyond, you have the right to have them removed, and a lot of rink staff will do that for you. They're there to support you. If you ask them to have someone removed, they'll have someone removed. And as the officials for the game, this is easier to say than it is to do, but it's within your right to not start that game until that parent is removed. If it's that egregious, have them removed. But if it's not that egregious, I mean, honestly, I would do my best to try and, I've always done my best to try and focus on the game and to just drown out some of the noise. It's a lot of times not worth it.
No, for sure. And you talk about that focus and that drowning out of the noise. And I think that when we talk about, those that make good officials and those that have the skills and such to be a successful official, there's a certain, level and experience in hockey that they would have gone through as a whole. And that's what you hear as a player as well. You focus, and I was a goaltender. What do? You're focusing in on the play and the being in that moment, as opposed to, what's going on around you, as well as, from the coaching standpoint as well. I know we're going to have Barry here a few times on this program. We've had Patty on here once, and we're going to have him back again. But, they talk about that, being in the moment and really focusing in on, again, the task at hand and the process at hand. So again, not getting distracted by those outside noises, quote unquote. And again, we, very rarely does it happen where officials will stop the game to toss out a parent. We're talking about the minority of the minority chances or opportunities. But again, knowing that those are there and that support is there. And that's why we talk about our Respect in Sport program being that standard for parents. That way, from an association standpoint, when we get those concerns, guess what? They can be managed, because you can't plead ignorance at that point, right? Oh, I didn't know that dropping F-bombs left, right, and center on official is incorrect. Well, yeah, you take the course. Well, said you took the course, so guess what? You know better. So, and it's just being a better, just being a good person, right? Just being a good person. So,
well, and there is I don't know. I was thinking about this when you guys were just discussing that there, where when you have a coach that's sort of getting heated up and you might have to speak with them, you have the accessibility to actually speak with the coach. But from the outside, on the bench or in the bleachers or what have you in the viewing area, the view there is more top down. You could see more of the ice, so you can't argue that, hey, your defenseman crossed my line, I couldn't see it. Oh, okay. And you almost have to treat it like a heckler in a sense, right? Like, I don't know if you're like the player yourself, you just have to wash that out in the back of your mind, because definitely focused on, let's say, like the more important things at the time. And it does suck that there could be potential scenarios where that does happen, but of course it is very, very minor that does happen. I've played hockey for like 14 years. I don't think I saw a need for a parent to be removed from a game, but I'm glad that those support systems are in place for the rink attendants, knowing that, and just those procedures as well for officials.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, what as we sit there and we, sometimes the officiating side can be painted with a brush in terms of, they have to deal with unruly coaches, unruly parents, and such. And so, parents, of officials or people might be apprehensive of putting them, letting their kids be officials and such, or they go and watch their kids, just to see how they're doing. What advice do you have for those parents of officials? Especially as they're getting into that game, in really encouraging them to enjoy being an official and keep going. So,
yeah, it's you kind of mentioned it already. A lot of it is just being that going to watch, right? Having with a lot of our kids, it can be as simple as just having that friendly face in the crowd, being able to look up and see like mom or dad and going, oh, this isn't actually that going that poorly, right? There's somebody I can focus on that isn't like 100 people that at this moment in time disagree with me. I know what seems to make a lot of our younger officials successful nowadays is a parent that takes the clinic with them. A lot of father sons or father daughters are getting into officiating together, and that having a parent that has that knowledge base now can be massive for the kids, so that when they go and officiate a game, there's some common understanding of maybe what's going on, and the parent can be almost that first mechanism for feedback, right? You can talk through penalties and situations and stuff with your kid, and provide them maybe some insight or some other ways to handle it from maybe a little bit of life experience that you might have that obviously they wouldn't, but just doing something almost like dad's doing it, so it can't be that scary. Almost is as simple as it could be at times.
That's beautiful, actually, because of course, I mean, at such a very young age, people can enter into the Alberta Hockey Officials Clinic and become officials. And you bring up the life experience in a sense. Maybe when you're younger, you might not have as much confidence to do certain things, and to have that very familiar face to help you along with it is something that can actually very much benefit, as you say, benefit your officiating. But I guess moving on more into the support of officials, from a parent of a player's perspective, what would you recommend to ensure that the official's experience is a positive one from the outside?
It's important to understand. I talked a lot off the top about kind of our the bottom of the pyramid, shall we say, the level 1, level 2 officials. What I would really encourage parents to understand is we have approximately 5,800 officials in this province. Approximately half of them are 15 years of age or younger. So when you're out there watching your kid's game, there's a 1 in 2 chance the official on the ice is younger than 15. So just understand that if you're going to yell, if you're being belligerent, it's a kid, right? And I guess the other thing, and we've heard some anecdotal examples of this over the years, is that's not only is that a kid, that's somebody's kid, right? So there are anecdotal examples of parents going over to parents of players going, hey, why are you yelling at the ref? Well, he made a bad call. Well, would you like me to start yelling at your kid because he made a bad pass? Right? So just And it's easy to get mad at the jersey, right? Because the jersey represents like the rules and all that stuff. But just understanding that behind that jersey is like a kid with their first part-time job, right? It's the first part-time job you can get at 12 years old, right? So it's your first experience out in the world, and just understanding that they're human, they're kids. It's somebody's kid, and how would you like it if somebody was yelling at your kid?
That's a very good way to look at it. Like, even when I was playing, I didn't realize that was a possibility, that somebody even my age or younger could be the referee. And, I never really got into scuffles or anything with refs, but I'd be on the bench like, oh, man, I would have made that call. But not thinking of it, if I were in their shoes, maybe not. And I got to realize that, everyone makes mistakes. This is a great learning opportunity, actually, to realize, like, you just got to take that one step back to realize, yes, hockey is important. A lot of these people put a lot of time into it, but it is just a game, and underneath the zebra jersey is another human being. So,
no, for sure. And just to add, tying to that, and I maybe part and parcel that it's still the overarching advice, but there are times where, again, you can get frustrated with calls, and like you said, people are human. Officials might have a bad day. It might be a long day. You don't know what's going on. No different than your kids, teammates, all of that. Are there pieces of advice you'd give to parents that are, could be frustrated with how a game is going, or what advice could you give to them? Or is it as simple as, maybe taking a walk and letting your emotions come down? But if you have any of that advice there that, again, 'cause like I said, we want to make sure that this is, positive, and can't ignore that sometimes things can be frustrating as well.
For sure. It can be that simple, right? Like you said, at the end of the day, hockey's a game. It's a game that we all love. That's why we all are involved in this in one way or another. If it is just, it can be as simple as just taking that cooling off walk, right? Just out to the lobby at intermission, deep breaths. If something's really, really wrong, I always preach the 24-hour rule before you do anything. And if there is a problem, talk to your manager, talk to somebody, a volunteer in we'll call it a position of authority. Talk to a team manager, talk to a coach, right? Maybe try and gather some information about the why. And it's amazing how quickly that can dispel a lot of frustrations.
No, for sure. And we talk about being a participative parent in this entire journey early on. Very, very early on, with, I think Dusty was co-hosting our second program there, and we talk about being that participative parent. And again, we talk about processes. There are processes in place to deal with, with those really the egregious issues that come up. Again, we've talked about it, and again, I was a coach and I was a player at one time, so again, my frustrations at officials probably came out. But again, things happen, and again, they're learning. So again, that's one thing. But if we're having significant issues, then there are those processes in places. And again, it's being that participative parent in your organization and understanding what those look like. Typically, exactly, talk to the manager. Then there will be a process to forward those concerns if there are, if they are significant in their challenges there. And like I said, then the officiating can look at it and figure out how to actually address that.
Well, and I guess, like, to go back to the bench, I guess, in a sense, like, a parent watching the game can maybe not like the play, wait 24 hours, and then get in touch with the manager in charge of the team. But going back onto the bench, if there's when a coach is there trying to, they're doing their thing, how can they help the officials out on the ice be the best that they can?
A lot. The first and foremost is how they present themselves, obviously, right? Like, again, understanding that it's a lot of the time it's minors, a lot of the time it's children, right? just something as simple as when you have a question, just step down off the bench, come down to eye level so that the 14 or 15 or 16-year-old can at least somewhat look you in the eye if they're not as tall as I am. And just it's a lot of it is just trying to bring down the emotion so that you can communicate effectively with the referees and the lines people, and just providing kind of a, for lack of a better term, inviting sense of body language, right? And then the same thing is keeping your players focused. If you can keep your players focused on playing hockey, on playing the game, that helps us out because the players are less focused on us. So if you focus on the game and are leading by example, you're focusing on the game, you're trying to do all the right things, you're communicating in a way that is calm and effective with us, that's going to trickle down to your team. It's amazing how even at the junior level, coaches that begin to focus on us, their team will start to focus on us, and all of a sudden we're now spiraling out of control. So as coaches, you have an amazing amount of control over your team, and it's tenfold when it comes to dealing with the officials, because the way you conduct yourself with us is the way your team is going to conduct themselves with us. So not all of your problems, but a majority of your problems will be mitigated by how you approach us during a game, and vice versa. Obviously, if we it's also incumbent on us to mirror that. There's nothing worse than when Jeremy is asking a question politely, and I come over there with every curse I can think of, and and all of a sudden we have a problem the other way, which like I said, we are human, so it can happen.
Yeah, definitely. I think you just hit the nail on the head there with a little bit of that emotional intelligence there. And again, like I said, when we bring in Barry, that's going to probably be one of the things that he talks about a lot. And again, when we talk about with Patty as well, he'll say that as well, because again, even from my perspective, I think I go back to my final league or playoff game, coaching, and again, call did not go our way, and you could just see that it started to unravel a little bit at that point, and the focus wasn't where it needed to be, and you just built that opportunity in to make that excuse for your team as a whole. So again, that's some great perspective there. And so I know you talked a little bit about how to manage that interaction. Also, what advice would you give to a coach that might not agree with the call? But I think more so, it's not just one call. It's usually a continuation of their view of calls not going their way. So essentially, how the game is being officiated as a whole. What advice could you give, or would you give to any coaches there that might not agree on the direction that the game is going from, in their opinion, an officiating standpoint?
First and foremost, reach out to your minor hockey association. In some capacity, every minor hockey association will have access to a senior official, whether it be a local referee in chief or a contact, your ref assigner, or a senior official in the area, and then connect with that person and ask your questions. Have those conversations. If that's all it is, if it's questions, connect with those subject matter experts, let's call them, and see if we can solve it that way. And if it's more of a complaint nature, there are mechanics to deal with that through your manager, through your league, where we can start to formalize things if we have to. But if we can keep it local and just deal with it between an RIC and a coach, or the MHA and the RIC and the coach, that's the most ideal.
Wow, we've talked about a lot thus far, like just the process in general of becoming an official, going to the Hockey Alberta official clinic, and just going through that, getting your foot on the ice, suiting up, and getting into calling those games. Everything around it is a lot. Sometimes it could be a lot, and there's a lot of processes to help officials mediate that with coaches and even some of the players and the viewers and participants out and parents and such like that. So that's like it is a heavy task to be an official, and it might seem daunting, but it seems very positive that there are a lot of those people and things in place for officials to actually, get the help they need to help hold their hand in a sense to get out on the ice and find that confidence and bring back to the game, because everybody loves the game of hockey. If you're going to spend your time going out to the clinic and wanting to become an official, you might be a player, you entering your first part-time job, right? First life experience. It's something quite beautiful in a sense, and I've almost been jealous of officials, even though I see them sometimes when I was playing that they might get beaked at from the stands or anything like that, but it is such a great position to be in. Like, if being an official, which I wasn't, and my brother was, he told me that he learned a lot of himself.
There's
and
still
of the
time.
game. And there's still time. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I could. No, I would love to be an official. I think I have the confidence. I'm pretty tall, so maybe the coach doesn't have to stand up from off the bench to speak with me. But no, this has been a beautiful conversation so far. Where can people sign up to become officials? Where can they find information on being an official in Hockey Alberta?
Yeah, so on our on the Hockey Alberta officiating website, officials.hockeyalberta.ca, one of the first tabs is become a referee, and that's got all the information you need on your clinics, equipment, insurance stuff, where the clinics are, any costs, local contacts, so that you have somebody to reach out to if you're, let's say you're in Drayton Valley and you don't know who to reach out to. There will be contact information for the local RIC or the local clinic lead out there. It's all laid out there to, like I say, remove as many barriers as we can to get you started as quickly and as easily as we can.
Yeah, I love that. And we've talked about a lot today. Are there any things that we haven't touched on that you would like to mention?
No, I just I want to say it's a great job to have. It's a team environment. So if you're used to playing on a hockey team, it's very much the same idea. We're a team. We're a team on the ice. We're a team off the ice. It's a great community to be a part of. I just appreciate you guys having me on to talk about it.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, we'll have a couple more things before we go into the final thoughts. But as a whole, Zach brought up his when he was saying about wanting to become an official, and I go back to actually one of the interactions kind of toward the end of my time at Hockey Alberta. One of the up and coming officials through the program, Jesse Woodschatz, he was a kid that I used to coach here in Edmonton at U13 Pee Wee, and a great kid. And I mean, he had some, as his career progressed, some challenges in there and such, and kind of stepped away from the game for a while, but found a way to get back in the game that he loved. He came back to the game, and he has been, like I said, he was. Justin was telling me the story that basically he was just the rink rat for a while there because his family had they farmed out over there and such, and he was just a rink rat at Sylvan Lake, and started to become an official or just got interested, and I was walking downstairs during, I'm thinking it was the Prospects Cup, and all of a sudden he just he sat there, he's like, "Didn't you used to coach me in Pee Wee?" And I'm like, "Jesse," and because he's a very tall guy, a look that you'll remember, and I'm like, yeah, like you just go back and see, he'd been out of the game for many years and was able to come back into it and give back to that game there. So again, there is that opportunity for you to to join the officiating program at any time and get back to the game in that way. And I know, like you said, you touched a little bit on this just before we shared that story. But you know, at the end of the day, why become an official?
It's well, I was just saying, it's a great community of people. Like, we can use Jesse for example. We can Jesse's one of the best guys you could meet, and maybe if you're done playing, like Jesse finished up playing and was looking to stay involved, and it's worked out roses for him. He's in Ontario right now at the CHL NHL camp. So his officiating career, and this can happen for a lot of folks. It could take you to places that you never thought of, and it can involve you in games. If you stick with it, you could be involved in some pretty cool leagues and games that you would never have sniffed as a player, like that, myself included. And there's a handful of, like, not a handful. There's a pile of guys I know that have officiated better hockey than they ever would have played, and it's that feeling of being out there in front of whatever 2,500 people that maybe some of us never would have got as a player. It makes it all worth it. It's a lot of fun. The group is really fun. It's a great way to, like I said, we've talked about the first part-time job for a couple of times. It's a great way for kids to make that first little bit of spending money, get out into the world, and and the life experience you learn from it. Obviously, we talked about the communication stuff and that kind of thing. Just sets you up for life with a bunch of skills.
That sounds like a long list of good things. It could be a first part-time job, all the life experience that you've mentioned, and also just giving back to the game. There's so many different ways you can approach really the officiating and the positive outcome of it. I didn't think about that one where, yeah, a lot of those players, don't have those chances to maybe play in games like that. And I didn't. I mean, I played like tier 6 hockey or whatever, right, for a long time. So that's nice to hear that, if you want to become an official, there's so many other opportunities that can stem from that once you get down the line.
No, for sure. And, we talked about this, asked these questions when we did our coaching program earlier on, with National Coaches Week and that. What advice would you have for somebody that might be on the fence about being an official?
Just come out and give it a try. It's wild, like, as I just talked about, it's wildly rewarding. It's you can do as much or as little as you like. Like, your availability is up to you. Just give it a shot. We would love to have you. There's relatively fairly few officials compared to players. So just give it a shot. Come out and take a chance on us, and I promise you'll fall in love with it.
No, for sure, and that's what we talk about. In our programming, on the Hockey Alberta side, Hockey Edmonton side, just like the coaching side of it, we're going to provide you the tools to succeed. We're, at the end of the day, we're not tossing you out there and you have to learn on the fly. We are providing you with those tools. We're consistently providing you with those tools, like you said, every year. And such. So there's a lot of things that go into our developing our officials. And again, we provide that development opportunity to whatever you want to be. There are those that just want to give back to the community, which is great. There are those that want to utilize this as a path to getting to higher hockey as a whole, be it, part-time, quote unquote part-time, where you're Western Hockey League, and U Sport and that type of thing. But there are those that do still aspire to get to the NHL as well. And again, all our programmings will provide you that opportunity to get to those higher levels. So again, like I said, in all of our programs, whether you want to be a coach, whether you want to be a player, or whether you want to be an official, we are going to provide you that opportunity and the tools to appropriately develop in a manner that suits you as a whole. So, I think we'll get in some final thoughts here. I think, as we highlight it as a whole, the biggest takeaway is at the end of the day that our officials are human, I think. And, I go back to a study me and Brett Kelly partnered up with the University of Calgary Sport Injury Prevention Institute, and it was on the head contact rule. And so essentially what we ended up doing was having, for those, just to give a little bit of background of the study itself. So they're trying to figure out, some of the challenges with the head contact rule, because the idea was it was going to reduce concussions in the game. And so the study was focused on taking video clips of either penalties or non-penalties. And essentially what we did was, so the University of Calgary got us all these clips. We provided the officials. So the first level of that was we took our best officials in the province to determine if a penalty should have been called and what type of penalty should have been called. And then what we did was we provided officials from all across the province, participated in the study, different age groups, different levels, all of that. And they were, required to view the video and determine should a penalty been called and what type of penalty should have been called. Again, at the end of the day, I think it was over 80% of them got it right. Number one, should a penalty been called? And I think it was as high for what type of penalty should have been called. So again, our officials for the most part, know the rule book. Unfortunately, there are so many dynamics that go into a game. And again, they are human as a whole. And that's usually what comes into play. They have to focus on 12 players essentially on the ice. They have to focus on as well keeping their head up for those potential collisions, pucks, all of that. So again, hockey is a dynamic game, and again, understanding that focus is that sometimes things get missed. And like you talked about early on, we're talking about kids learning the game as a whole. Again, we don't expect kids to pass perfectly. In fact, you look at the NHL. I think there was a stat there. Only a fraction of the passes in the NHL truly are perfect passes, and these are pro people. Yet, like you said, we expect our officials to be perfect to start and then go up from there. I love that. And again, at the end of the day, mistakes happen. We can't dwell on it. So I'll sit there and I'll say this: if hockey was 100% perfect, this game would be absolutely boring because nothing would happen. Like a perfectly dropped puck, perfectly tied up on the face-off, that puck's not even moving.
Yeah, it's pinned along the boards the entire game, right? Yeah, even at the highest level, you see referees, players make mistakes, and it is hard to realize, like, to have to strive to be perfect, which everybody tries to do in their day-to-day life. They want to be, as good, do the job as well as they can, and you miss it, and you can't really dwell on that either. It might be difficult. Oh, I made that. Darn, that should have been an offside. Maybe that helped the team out get another opportunity. Move on to the next one. You'll learn from that opportunity. And I just want to say, being a part of this episode here, I'm very thankful that I was able to be a part of this show here today, as Trev usually is in this position here. I just want to say, I've always thought that being an official would be something that I want to do. And now hearing you guys speak about the lovely programs and things that are available to me, it's making me feel more welcomed into possibly, entering the clinic and actually becoming an official myself.
Like I said, there's still time.
There's still time always to give back, right? Like I don't know, coming into this, like I always thought, well, usually, sometimes I do see those younger officials and it is a part-time thing, but you could always give back to the game, and there's so much more that you could take from it than, just a part-time job, for sure.
For sure. So yeah, just one last question. We talked about how you get the information, but when do clinics end for you folks?
So we're on the home stretch now. We have a handful left. Most of them will be done by the end of November. Well, the official end date is December 15th. That's the Hockey Canada cutoff to be registered. So between now and then, we'll have I think we have 20 more. So there's still lots of time to get out there and join the third team on the ice, the best team on the ice.
I got to visit the website. I'm going to go check it out after this. Yeah, that was a lovely conversation on officiating. And, of course, Hockey Alberta manager of officiating, Liam MacIssac, joining myself, Zachary Kubusch, and Jerry Haluschak. Haluschak? I got that right?
Yes.
Haluschak.
Yes.
See, I always overthink names, but you could always overthink things, out on the ice or doing anything. Well, gentlemen, that was definitely a pleasure in this episode here today. That was episode 10 of the Hockey Edmonton show here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Go check out the website if you're thinking of becoming an official. I know I'll be checking it out. I'm not just saying that. I actually will be, because this is very exciting to me. I love seeing people out on the ice. I always talk to officials when I'm at a game, viewing it in any sort of sense, minor league, or to try and talk to the officials and kind of pick their brains of how they do things. So that was lovely. Once again, I'm Zachary Kubusch for Jeremy Haluschak and Liam MacIssac. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.